Welcome to Massabesic High School's College Planning Workshop in the spring of 2020. We're going to talk tonight about the college search and application process. This is particularly geared for juniors in high school, but underclassmen and their parents may also benefit. So we welcome you all this evening. The Massabesic High School guidance counselors are pleased to offer this presentation. You'll find them listed here. Tonight it's narrated by Deborah Curtis. But if you have questions about anything you hear in this presentation or other needs, please reach out to one of us. We are here to help. Tonight we'll be talking about a number of topics that are listed here. We'll run through what juniors should be doing and thinking about as they look towards their future life after high school. Underclassmen, if you're following along, we welcome you also learning about the things you'll need to do as you look to your future. So for the junior year action plan, you will find more information located in the Massabesic High School Guidance Google Classroom. The class code is listed here. You can also start your college search using the College Board Big Future section or through Naviance, which is a Massabesic High School product that we offer you. We have a license to that, and every student has an account. Students log into Naviance through Clever, but the address is also listed here. In Naviance, you can do a search where you can narrow down colleges of interest. There are over 5,000 colleges in the United States, so that's really too many to just start browsing through to find ones that might work for you. So you can do a search and narrow it down by location, the college size, whether it's very large or smaller in student body. What major do you want? What are some of the other factors you desire, such as athletics or clubs or other special programs they might offer? As mentioned, the College Board Big Future also has a search that can be used and is quite reliable and helpful. You will find other searches out there, but these are two that the MHS Guidance Department feels comfortable mentioning to you. You also want to visit schools when it's possible. We'll talk more about that as we move along. When you're looking at a college, you should check if they have a program of interest. Just because someone mentions a college to you, it is a great place for you to consider. You want to make sure that it has the academic program that you're actually interested in, because you're there, to be honest, to get the degree in that program. You also want to check the admission requirements for the college that interest you. For the class of 2021 or the college class of 2025, admission requirements are changing right now due to the pandemic that we're all experiencing. So I would encourage you to look at each college's website for more information. Some of the things that are changing that colleges will look at differently for the high school class of 2021 could include testing requirements, GPA requirements, and deadlines, among other things. But ideally, when a student starts his or her senior year of high school, they know what college they wish to apply to, such that in the fall of senior year, all they need to worry about is filling out those applications and making sure their recommendations are in order and filing for financial aid and not narrowing down the choices of where they will be applying. If the student is or hopes to play NCAA athletics for either a Division I or II college or university, registering with the NCAA is required. You register with the Eligibility Center, and the address for that is listed here. This needs to be done ASAP if the student is a junior in high school or grade 11. Once the student registers with the NCAA, he or she needs to let the MHS Guidance Department know, because the Guidance Department will send a copy of the transcript for that student to the NCAA. A high school transcript is a document that contains all of the classes the student has taken in high school, as well as the credits earned and the grades in each of those classes. Please do not assume that the high school will automatically be notified to send this transcript to the NCAA. please reach out yourself. To play Division III NCAA athletics, it is not required that a student register with the NCAA. However, it can prove helpful, and the NCAA Eligibility Center does have information for students that they might like to see. There are other college athletic conferences out there, and those colleges do not require registering with the NCAA. Visiting colleges, it's been a key part of the college search process. However, right now, due to the pandemic, it's not really possible to visit colleges in person. However, colleges are working diligently to come up with virtual tours that students can take. Colleges are also posting on their websites opportunities for webinars, teleconferencing, Zoom sessions, many different formats. They're encouraging students to check them out online and to possibly talk with admissions personnel. So check out a college's admissions page to see what they're offering. Please also be patient. Some colleges have been doing these very things for a few years now, and others have suddenly been thrust into this due to the pandemic this spring. And they may be struggling a bit with their virtual realities, but all colleges do have an online presence, and you are encouraged to check that out to help you narrow your search. If time allows later, visit. Naviance, things you should know. Naviance is an internet-based platform, as mentioned, that MHS has a license to. There are sections in Naviance that cover career information, where there are career interest surveys that students can take if they're struggling to decide what career might be appropriate for them. I'd encourage you to check out those sections. There's also some information under the college tab that will help you search for colleges and other such tools. Check those out as well. Senior year, most college applications are online, and Massabesic High School sends school documents such as your transcript and other things through Naviance. So seniors will need to use Naviance for this. All Massabesic High School students have a Naviance account, but parents, you can have one too. Just let us know and we can help arrange that. Students sign into Naviance using Clever, but their web address is provided here. The student's username is the RSU57 student email address, and the forgot password feature can be used as needed, or again, reach out to your high school guidance department and we will be happy to help. So college testing, always a big worry and part of the admission process. This spring 2020, standardized testing is vastly different than it has been in the past, because for now, standardized test dates for both the SAT and the ACT, the main standardized tests that colleges use, have been postponed until June. And those may not happen at all. It's still a wait and see situation. Colleges know this, and right now they are waiting to see how the COVID-19 pandemic progresses. Some adjustments in testing requirements for the high school class of 2021 have been announced at many U.S. colleges, but students and parents should stay tuned. The best advice that I could give right now is that you check each college's website for the latest updates, as testing requirements will vary by college and may continue to change over time. For other high school classes beyond the class of 2021, please note that you should also check high school web pages as you move forward and it gets closer and closer to your time to apply to college. We are expecting that these requirements will continue to change quite frequently over the next few years, depending on how our future goes. There can be some updates for testing found on the testing websites themselves. For the SAT test, this would be collegeboard.org, and for the ACT test, it would be actstudent.org. But in general, what is needed? Please keep in mind that some of this information is provided just as a frame of reference for you. Things are changing, but we also want you to be aware of what testing has usually been done, both in case you see it as you move forward and for underclassmen who may be watching this, because they also may see some of these things. Many colleges, but not all, usually require some form of testing, either the SAT, the ACT, or the AccuPlacer, which is a college placement test to find out what courses might be appropriate for you once you're in college. A few, but a very, very few, require or suggest subject tests. This is becoming more and more infrequent. 10 years or so ago, if we were talking about this, I would spend quite a bit of time on subject tests because a number of schools required them. Today, that's just not the case. But in case you see it on a college website, we wanted to mention it. There are some other college tests out there, particularly for some students looking at colleges with majors in the medical field. An example that a couple students I've worked with in recent years found was the TEAS test, or the test of essential skills, academic skills, and that was required for some of the colleges they were looking at. But if you run into this, don't panic. It can all be worked out with some planning. We just want you to know that there are other tests out there. So the SAT is the most common one that our students in recent years have taken. Typically, it is recommended that a student take the SAT in the spring of their junior year, but as we know, that's not happening this spring. Typically, it's recommended that students retake the SAT in the summer or fall of senior year. We'll have to wait and see what happens in this year, 2020. Study help is available. College Board and Khan Academy have partnered for individualized SAT practice. Students log into their College Board account, click on Practice for the SAT, and then it will take them to Khan Academy with an individualized program that will focus on areas of need for that student so that they practice the areas where they're the weakest, and they don't have to spend too much time on areas where they've already demonstrated skill. This would be based upon, for the junior class and for the sophomore class, their PSAT tests that were taken last fall. I believe that would also be true for the ninth graders. Typically, Maine community colleges will use the SAT results for course placement or admittance, and for more information, if it's needed, would come from the AccuPlacer, which is, as mentioned, a college placement test to determine readiness for college work. Right now in the state of Maine for next fall, it's been said that students will not need to have this type testing at the community colleges, but please, we will have to look as we move forward on exactly what that will mean. I've mentioned the ACT, which is a different standardized test that colleges use just as they use the SAT. There are some differences. One big difference is that the ACT has a science section that the SAT does not. The test questions are structured a little differently, and sometimes some students do better on the ACT than the SAT, but the vice versa is also true. I can't say what your student would do better on, which test they would do better on. But I have often had students take both just to see if they could have a higher score and show what they really know for the colleges. It should be noted that for those students with demonstrated financial need, because there is a cost with both the ACT and the SAT, there is assistance to help pay for these tests. Students should speak with the guidance counselor for assistance if this is needed. I briefly mentioned already that college testing for 2020 in Maine is a little different. This year, the Maine Department of Education is not requiring all public school grade 11 students take the SAT. The Maine Department of Education has also stated that all Maine public colleges will not require standardized testing for admission for the high school class of 2021. Please note that this applies to public universities and community colleges in the state of Maine. Private colleges may set different rules, and there are both public and private universities in the state. Public universities and community colleges receive funding from the state of Maine, and the private ones do not. This would apply to admission to the college or university. It does not guarantee acceptance into the college major or program of choice. So please keep that in mind. Students will be looked at holistically for admittance. Holistically is one of those terms that is used in college admission to say that the college admission personnel will look at all aspects of the child when admitting the student. So they will look at the classes that the student chose to take in high school. Did they choose to take the most rigorous courses they could? Did they take and do well in those courses? Were they involved in activities both at school, if they could, or maybe in the community? Colleges recognize that sometimes having a job is needed, but was the student active in his or her life beyond just going to school each day? Students might still need to complete testing for course placement upon enrollment. The dictate from the Maine Department of Education says that the public colleges and universities will not use standardized testing for admissions for the class of 2021. But it could be that they need to participate in some sort of testing at a later date for course placement. So exactly what these changes are going to mean will have to be determined as we move forward. I wanted to list a few examples of testing requirements here as they existed before the COVID-19 pandemic. It's provided for reference, both for those looking at college coming right up and for anyone listening to this who may be looking a few years down the road. So before the pandemic has changed things so drastically, the SAT or the ACT was required at the University of Maine at Orono. The SAT or the ACT or 3 subject tests from different academic areas was required at Middlebury College in Vermont. Please note that it says or. So a student could provide any of those things, and as long as they did so, would have met that admissions requirement. St. Joseph's College in Maine was test optional unless the student was applying for nursing or was a homeschooled student. The University of New England was test optional unless the student was applying for nursing, medical biology, pre-dental or pre-medicine, was homeschooled, or had an unweighted GPA of less than 2.5. The University of New Hampshire had announced that they were test optional unless the student was an NCAA recruited athlete. And Bates and the University of Maine at Farmington were test optional for admissions, but both required test scores after enrollment for course placement and advising. Keep in mind, again, the requirements listed here on this screen were what colleges said before many recent changes with the COVID-19 pandemic and are just provided here for your reference, so for a greater understanding of what you might see. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, keep in mind, as stated, that colleges are repeatedly updating their admission requirements. Many colleges are changing standardized testing for the class of 2021, so you should stay tuned. And one thing I'm stressing is that this may or may not apply to all college majors. So people need to really read carefully on a college's website to understand what each college is requiring for each major and for each applicant. There is no standard across the country. Every college can do what it decides to do. So it is required or recommended that you check every college's website. I can't stress that enough for what that college wants. But there is some good news. Colleges are aware that COVID-19 is impacting students' academic progress, their grading, involvement activities at school and in the community. And colleges are assuring everyone that admissions departments moving forward will look at students holistically, meaning the entire student and all that they bring to the table, and with understanding. So do not panic. If your child or if you're the student who's not able to do maybe as many things or do as well as they have in the past. Colleges understand and will take all of that into consideration. So what is often needed when a student applies? For a 2-year college or technical school, many times there's an application that is usually online these days. There can be an application fee that accompanies that. There will be a high school transcript that they want. That is a document, as mentioned, that lists everything the student has taken in high school, the grades earned, the course titles, the credits that were earned, etc. There'll be a school profile. That's a document that Massabesic High School produces that lists that we are a regional school with 6 towns. It talks about the size of our school, where we're located, and many other details, just to put your educational experience in context for the colleges. If needed, testing may be required. And then the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is the document students will file to find monies for pay for college. So most 4-year colleges require the things listed in the middle column on this slide. There'll be an application, a high school transcript and school profile, SAT, ACT scores if needed, but they also will have often a college essay. They will want letters of recommendation. Now, please note, colleges do not want to read numerous letters of recommendation. They already read many documents for each student that applies. And they ask, some won't take any, some will only take 1, some will require 2, and some will limit it to 3 or 4. We recommend that students come up with 2 letters of recommendation. That way you're covered for just about every school. One comment I will make is that many times colleges are really looking for insight from the teachers who have had the student in the classroom, particularly in the subject areas as they relate to the major the student is looking at. Other recommendations are possible to send and many times welcome, but make sure that you do have some of those from your teachers, because that's what colleges tell us they really want to see. These colleges also use the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, to help students find monies to pay for college. The more difficult or selective 4-year schools that have more rigorous admittance criteria that they follow have many of the same requirements as the typical 4-year college, but they sometimes have additional things that students need to do. That could be that there could be additional testing. It also could be that there's a personal interview required. Some colleges will state this clearly on their website, and some colleges will reach out to candidates after the student has applied and the application has been initially reviewed to say, this is what we would like you to do to continue in the application process. Don't be surprised if you apply to one of those schools and you did receive such a shout out. That's actually a good thing. It means they're still interested in you. These colleges do use the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, but many of them also use additional financial aid documents and require them if the student is to receive monies that that college can give out. The most common additional financial aid document is the CSS profile, which is a lengthy document and can be found on the College Board website. It does cost money to file the CSS profile. So who's responsible for what? The students are responsible for completing and submitting the applications, for completing some recommendation forms that the counselors and teachers at Massabesic High School ask for before writing a recommendation. Students are also responsible for asking teachers in person, if we're in school, for those letters of recommendation. Students need to write their college essay. And I want to talk about the college essay for a minute. The topic is found in the college application, but students need to write this themselves. You need to have a student's voice in it. Colleges look for that. And the student realistically wants to write the essay and find placement or acceptance at a college that feels that student would be successful there. But colleges also know that students have the opportunity to have this essay proofread, and they expect it. This is final draft writing, not first draft. So students need to write it so that the student's voice comes through. And then students should have someone else proofread it, as well as proofread it themselves, before finalizing it and putting it in their application. Students are responsible for finding out what testing each college requires, and then, if needed, registering for that testing and taking the test. Students also are responsible for making sure that the official scores, if the college requires it, are sent to that school. Even though Massabesic High School may be notified of your test scores, some colleges will require that the score be sent from the testing agency to the college without Massabesic High School being the middleman. This means that students need to make sure that happens, because your guidance counselors do not have access to your College Board account to send those scores for you. Students also need to let the counselor know when they've applied. Counselors do not receive some electronic notification such that they know to send the transcript and other documents to the college. So students need to let the counselor know. Counselors are very happy to send out transcripts, the school profile, the letters of recommendation, and some other documents that colleges want. The counselor will also happily write a letter of recommendation as long as the student provides the recommendation forms to the counselor. Families completing the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and the CSS profile if it's needed, is something that your students will need help with. The FAFSA has both a student and parent section that only parents are able to do. Families also are crucial in helping a student decide what is the best choice and fit for the finances available. Many adults have far more life experience than the student, and parents and guardians or trusted adults' input is very valuable. And supporting students through the entire process, which can seem lengthy, is very key. Sometimes those deadlines sneak up on those high school seniors, or they just need support to say, yes, you can get this done. I believe in you. That's a crucial part of the process. So the application. Most applications are now online. Some colleges do have their own applications that are specific to that school, but some use the common application we'll talk about later. There are usually application fees. Some schools, you're right, don't have any, and some it may go up to $100 per school. So parents and families should plan for this as they look at how many schools the student is going to apply for or apply to, and make note of what type of money might be required to do this. There is assistance with application fees for students with demonstrated financial need, and students should speak with their high school guidance counselor if in this situation. Please also note that many colleges, if you enroll in that college, will apply your application fee towards that first semester's bill. However, the application fee is non-refundable to any school. So if you apply to a school, whether you get in or not, you will not be getting that application fee back in your pocket. Application deadlines start as early as October of senior year, but most are in November, December, and January. Some may even be in February or later, but most are in November, December, and January. Many colleges use the common application, as mentioned. This is one application, and I believe the last time I looked, there were over 600 colleges in the United States, many in the Northeast, where many of our students apply, that use this application. This means a student can fill out one application and then choose multiple schools that they can send it to. Thus, it saves the student much time if two or more of the colleges the student is looking at use it. You can find the common application as the website listed on this slide, and I would recommend starting it over the summer sometime, maybe July. You create an account, you log in, you put your information in, you log out and log back in another time to continue. It is somewhat lengthy, so having this ability is very helpful. Just be aware there are a few other applications out there that you might run into, so don't be surprised. Each college website will list the options on how a student can apply to them. So college admission factors. What do colleges consider when they review a candidate? They do look at the courses taken in high school. So has a student challenged themselves as much as they can? They also look at GPA, your grade point average. So what is your average from all the classes you've taken? How well have you done? They look at your grades in specific classes as well. They may look at class rank compared to your peers. How did you do? If needed or required, they may look at your standardized test results. They also look at the major that the student has applied for, because sometimes if a student is applying for a major, the criteria, the courses they want to see on the transcript, the grades earned, class rank, or other factors will matter more. For example, if you have applied for a major related to a science career and you haven't taken much science in high school, or you haven't done well in your science and math courses, that's not going to look as well for admittance into that science major as it would for maybe a different major that didn't require math and science so much. So the major you applied for can make a difference. Extracurricular activities, which can include things at the high school or in the community. Colleges recognize that some students are more active in the community in activities or part-time jobs, or sometimes even within their own families or the family farm and family business. So as long as a student has shown they have filled their time with more than just school, colleges admire that. Letters of recommendation is another thing they look at. We talked about that briefly before. And then a couple terms that students and parents may be aware of or may not. Need blind or need aware schools. Need blind schools review a student's application without knowing a thing about the family's finances. And they will admit a student solely based on the criteria the student brings to the table. However, many schools are need aware. That means they do look at the strengths that the student brings based upon the application. However, they also consider the family's finances. Now, why would they do this? One would like to think that that would not matter. However, colleges need to make sure they balance their budget at the end of the day. And if they admit all students with a great financial need, they know that at the end of the day, they will not be able to balance that budget. So they are often need aware. Knowing this about a school may make a difference in at least your understanding why certain decisions are passed down, because some great schools, students sometimes are not admitted to schools that surprise me, and other times they are. But just understand, some schools are need blind and some are need aware. When a student applies, they can apply under several different application programs, and each college sets up or chooses the program that it will use. You should always read that college's fine print about their application program. But in general, the following things apply. If a college says they have an early action program, it means the student applies early, oftentimes in November or December. I've seen it in October, and I have seen it in January, but many times it's November or early December. The student then will receive notification whether they were admitted, deferred to regular decision, or denied quite early in the process, usually before Christmas or in early January. Under an early action plan, a student can still apply to many, many schools, and you have until May 1st to make a final decision on what college you would attend in the fall. Early decision is slightly different. Student still applies early, and the student will still hear if they have been admitted or not early in the process. Many times, as mentioned, by Christmas or early January. But it is considered a binding admission. When the student applies under an early decision plan, he or she will sign an agreement, and often the guidance counselor and the parent also must sign it, stating that it is understood that the student is promising to attend this school if accepted. The student is also promising, if they have other applications pending at other schools, that they would immediately withdraw those applications upon hearing of their admission to the college. And this is all before you've heard about the financial aid package. So students who apply early decision need to know that they can afford the college they're looking at. There is something on a website we'll talk more about a little bit later in the presentation called the Net Price Calculator, which will help a student and family determine if a college seems like a reasonable financial choice. And early decision schools think that parents and students have taken advantage of these tools so that when they apply early decision, and if they're admitted, they know they can afford the school because it is a binding offer of admission. Regular decision usually has a later deadline, often in March. Students apply by that deadline. Sometimes the deadline, by the way, can be in February. And then they hear in late March if they've been accepted, and they have until May 1st to accept that or decide where they're going. Rolling admission is a little different. Starting in the fall of senior year, colleges with rolling admission start reviewing applications. And then they roll through the entire admission cycle, admitting students every few weeks, and students then can decide by May 1st if they wish to go to that college or not. This can be very helpful with a student who applies very late in the process because the college is still usually accepting applications, unlike a regular decision school that often stops their application cycle with that last regular decision deadline. Rolling admission will still be rolling along, often into the summer after high school graduation. The challenge with rolling admission is that sometimes a student wants a specific program. And if that program at that college filled early in the admissions cycle, say before Christmas during the senior year, then that program fills early, and those who apply later would not be considered. So applying before Christmas of your senior year is what I usually recommend to most seniors, but rolling admission can be very helpful for those when needed and need to apply late. We want to talk quickly about advanced placement classes. It's been mentioned that what courses a student takes in high school can affect college admissions. AP classes, advanced placement, are one of those type classes that colleges love to see in the high school transcript. Why? Research studies have shown that students who take AP classes tend to be more dedicated students when they go to college and tend to do better. This AP course is a course with a standardized curriculum that at the end of the year, usually in May, students take a national exam just on the content of that course. These courses are taught by Massabesic High School teachers, but the test comes through the College Board. And any student who took this class at any high school across the country takes this test in the spring on the same day in May. They take the test, and then the College Board scores all the tests. This provides colleges with some standardized assessments comparing the student to students across the country in that subject area, and thus gives the college a snapshot of that student's ability, at least for that subject area. Colleges love these courses. They can be very, very beneficial for students in other ways. If a student scores well on the exam, the students can earn college credit or not have to take certain introductory courses in college. So that's a great financial benefit and moving the kids further along when they go to college. Classes are already done. This class also would count for high school credit. So students would, regardless of how they do on the exam in May, earn credit towards their high school diploma. Dual enrollment is another program that students can follow or take and participate in while they're in high school. This is where a student takes a college class while still in high school, and they're dual enrolled both at the high school and the college. The student then can earn college credit that they can use both towards their college degree when they go, but also towards the high school diploma. Most MHS students attend York County Community College for dual enrollment, but please note it is available at other area colleges and universities. MHS pays for the books, supplies, and transportation for students who go to York County Community College. Tuition and fees, I need to repeat that. Students and families need to pay for the books, supplies, and transportation. MHS pays for the tuition and fees for the courses. So students can take the course and save money later because they don't have to pay for it. But students at the time they take it do need to transport themselves and pay for books and supplies. Students are considered young adults when they take these courses. That means that colleges will not speak to parents about the student's progress. It is up to the student to communicate with the professor if they need help, if they're going to be absent from class, or if anything else emerges, because the students are considered young adults and treated that way. This can be frustrating for parents at times, and sometimes students themselves forget that they have to step up and be that independent young adult if they're going to take a dual enrollment course. But there are benefits, many benefits as mentioned. You can earn college credit and save money. You can experience college early while still at the high school, receiving support from both home and personnel at the high school. So it can help with that transition into college that the student will be experiencing once they graduate. For more information, I would encourage you to speak with the Extended Learning Opportunities Coordinator, Ms. Allison Ellis, or your high school guidance counselor. So let's talk about finances in the college search. It's recommended that families discuss finances early in the search process. Discuss with the student what is realistic that the family can contribute to the student's college education. This can save an awful lot of tears late in the game. Every year, I work with some student who has great dreams of going to some wonderful college. And then the financial aid award comes in, and it is just too much for the student and family to handle. And because the student really wasn't aware of the parameters of what the family could help the student with in order to pay for school, the student is somewhat shocked, and the family and parents are very disappointed and devastated in the reality that their child is facing. So talking about it early so everybody understands where things stand is strongly encouraged. But with that said, the sticker price or the announced cost of attendance should not be the only reason a student rules in or rules out a college from his or her list of choices. Financial aid sometimes can make an expensive school possible for the student, and sometimes financial aid just doesn't cover enough of that difference. It varies greatly by student and family. One year, a few years ago, I had two students who were accepted to the University of Maine at Orono and accepted to Bates College. For one of those students, Bates College, which is a wonderful school in the state of Maine, but is a very expensive school with an expensive sticker price. For one student, Bates was the cheaper alternative. It was actually cheaper than the University of Maine at Orono. And for the other student, because his family situation was different, the University of Maine at Orono was the cheaper alternative. So it varies by student and family. As mentioned, all college websites by law must have a net price calculator on the website that students and families can use to estimate what the college will cost before financial aid loans. Loans are not considered in this estimate that the net price calculator provides. Why? Because a loan still has to be paid back. It is still a cost to the student and family. So the net price calculator tries to give an estimate and a hopefully accurate estimate of the cost that the student and family will be responsible for per year if that child goes to that school. It's important to remember that the primary responsibility lies with the student and the family to pay for the college experience. Financial aid can help, but it is the student and family's responsibility. A general rule of thumb listed at the bottom of this slide is that the financial aid experts recommend a student borrows no more for his or her undergraduate degree or associate degree over the student's college career than the student will earn in the first year on the job in that career. And I hope that the student will borrow even less than that. So an example of this would be if a student in the state of Maine was planning to become a teacher. Teachers in the state of Maine start out for the first year somewhere between, right now, $35,000 and $40,000 a year as their starting pay salary. It goes up from there, but that's the starting pay. So for a student currently attending college, planning to become a teacher in the state of Maine, he or she should not borrow more money than $35,000 to $40,000 to pay for his or her college career. If they borrow more than that, the experts say that college student to become, that new teacher will struggle to pay rent, car payments, and feed themselves. So as long as you keep it below that threshold, they could at least make their payments. I would hopefully recommend that they borrow less, but that's just the general rule of thumb that's out there. It all comes down to fit and finances. Fit would be the school at which the student feels comfortable and at which he or she can pursue the desired academic program. Does the college have the major that you want? And does it feel like a place you'd like to be? Finances. The school with the best fit for the money that the student and family has available to pay for the student's education. And sometimes the best fit is not the cheapest or the most expensive. Sometimes it's in between. So it really is a balancing act between fit and finances as the student makes the decision on what college he or she will attend after high school. I strongly believe the lines that are on this slide that are underlined. There is a college out there that is financially reasonable for every student. But students may be accepted into schools that are not financially responsible choices. That's a harsh reality. Students try so hard in high school, do their best, participate in activities, are wonderful human beings and citizens of our world, and get into some great schools and then have to look at the school and say, but I can't afford to attend you. But there is a school out there that will work well for that student, where he or she will be happy. I firmly believe that. To learn more about financial aid, I would encourage you to look at the Finance Authority of Maine. They are a great program in Maine that work to create quality jobs for Maine people and try to make higher education more accessible and affordable for Maine citizens. This current spring, if you'd like to learn the basics about the financial aid process, FAME has a program called Financial Aid Night Spring 2020 posted on YouTube. The address is listed there. This 92-minute video will answer many of the questions that you didn't even know you had about the financial aid process. The FAME website, in general, offers many other webinars, tools, and information related to the financial aid process. And I would encourage you to check out their website for many more pieces of information and beyond. Throughout the college search and application enrollment process, students will really benefit from parent, guardian, or adult assistance. I like this slide just to kind of stress to everyone that it's a big process. It's not hard. There are just many steps. So step 1, search for possible colleges and visit, virtually or in person when it's possible. Step 2, complete college and financial aid applications and be accepted to college. Step 3, determine what college is the best fit for the finances that are available. Step 4, Complete all paperwork for enrollment and meet those deadlines. Step 5, participate in college orientation activities that usually occur right around graduation or in the summer after graduation from high school and before the student goes and enrolls in the fall. The first bill will come due, step 6, in July or August after high school graduation. This always seems to come up so quickly once that student has finished his or her celebration about graduation. Step 7, prepare for life at school. This happens over the summer usually after high school graduation. There are often needed dorm supplies, books and supplies for classes, appropriate clothing, working on a parking permit or travel arrangements to the college. Sometimes the student needs to adjust banking arrangements, needs to think about a computer and other things. Step 8, move-in day if living on campus or away from home. Many times students need help arranging or taking care of this piece. And step 9, start the semester and navigate this new life challenge. There will be challenges, and parents staying in touch with your new college student, either by calls, texting, or in person, can help them as they navigate these problems. They may need encouragement, suggesting who to go speak with, or just being that person they can talk to. So what do we take away from the presentation? I'm hoping that you recognize, if you're a junior, that now is the time to start planning the college search and application process. And if you are an underclassman, it's never too early. You can start looking now. Search for colleges that offer what you want from the college experience. Please be realistic as well as dream. Look for the application and financial safety school, as well as the reach or dream school. Visit colleges virtually now, and when it becomes possible, in person. Research the application requirements for the schools of interest. Know, what do they require? What type of application do they have? What are their testing requirements? What do they want to see? What are their deadlines? Please, please pay attention to those deadlines, and then check back if you're looking early. Create a list of schools to which you plan to apply, such that as you start your senior year, you can just focus on your senior year classes and the application process. And above all, if you have questions, please ask us. The Massabesic High School Guidance Department wants to help. Thank you for listening to this presentation. This is Deborah Curtis, and we hope this has helped.